What's up, guys? We have Sam from BQool here today. He's going to be doing an exclusive call with our community. He's going to be going over the SellerAmp X BQool integration on their profit calculator and Chrome extension. Thank you, Sam, for explaining all this for us.
I'm super happy to be here, Mike. It's terrific. We've been talking about it, and now it's happened. SellerAmp plus BQool better together. And I have some presentation I'm going to share with everybody, and I'm just going to share it right away, if that's all right with you.
Of course. I'm excited.
Fantastic. And then just before we continue, I just want to ask you, how did you hear about BQool and also about SellerAmp?
Yeah, so the first time I actually saw this, I saw it all over my socials, but I remember seeing it from the Miami Sellers Conference that I couldn't go to. And I remember seeing a lot of social media posts of people with BQool X SellerAmp, just posts, t-shirts and stuff like that. I'm close with a lot of other people in the community, and I did see this. And I've been using BQool since, my day one on Amazon, and I've been using SellerAmp for a long time. But once you guys kind of did that, it took me a little while. I don't know why it took me so long to actually use it, but I'm glad to kind of have this as an integration, and I'm excited to learn more about it.
That's fantastic. So in today's sharing, we're going to covering several things. We're going to be talking about some of the main features. What is the setup process? We're going to show you how to do that. Also, the benefits of this integration, and also some scenarios that you could possibly use this for. And then we'll talk about maybe Mike's favorite feature. And if you want, we could also share some tips for Q3 and Q4 using which AI rule specifically. And then for everybody who's watching this, the most important thing, if you haven't subscribed to BQool yet, then it's really important to subscribe to BQool and also subscribe to SellerAmp. And there's no better way than to use Mike's link below, because if you subscribe with Mike's link, you get 16 extra days. So you get 30 days free trial, which is worth $100. And then you could also use Mike's link for SellerAmp as well, because in order for you to use the integration, you have to have both softwares. And then this is the reason that we're sharing about this today. Mike, what do you think it's really important to have both software as a seller? And when should you get a repricer? When should you get a sourcing tool?
Yeah, so honestly, from my perspective, I've had SellerAmp pretty much since day one. And looking back, if I didn't have it, I'd pretty much say I would be screwed. And that's not even a paid promo or anything. Like, I really think it helps having it side by side when you're sourcing, going through those types of listings, having it next to you and putting in those numbers and actually seeing it in real time, rather than having to use, Amazon's revenue calculator kind of does a similar style of profit calculator, but there's so many more tools built within SellerAmp that can show you all of that type of data on top of Keepa, which is good, but SellerAmp kind of condenses it and makes it a lot better for maybe the beginner user who's not trying to go super crazy on a bunch of different tools. So going back, I think it was super useful. I'm glad I used it from day one. And then I also was probably using BQool maybe a 1 month into my Amazon journey. I think most sellers, once they have a few listings under their belt on their account, having a repricer is great. And not only that, like, you get a 30-day free trial, I believe, right? Why wouldn't you want to use it right away once you have a few listings? Because repricing with BQool is almost instantaneous, if not every 15 minutes. And if you think about it from our perspective, like, if we had to reprice listings that were pretty volatile and going up and down and fluctuating, you'd have to do it literally every 15 to 30 minutes on some specific listings, unless you're selling on listings that, maybe is a wholesale listing where you're maintaining MAP. But if it's an arbitrage listing, you would have to change your prices almost every 15, 30 minutes. So having a repricer, even if you have 5 ASINs on your account, is super helpful. It's worth the subscription cost. It's probably earning you more profits than you'd think you are. And more sellers should actually invest in a repricer earlier than not.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's share a little bit about our presentation from today. We'll continue on with the presentation. And there's several advantages of the BQool and SellerAmp integration. So let me just go to the advantages here. Basically, if you are a BQool subscriber, you can now use SellerAmp to add mins and maxes within the SellerAmp, and that's the app. That's also using the Chrome extension or the web software as well. And then you can go to any single site. You can go to Kohl's, you can go to Walgreens, you can go to Walmart, you can go to Target, you go to Nike.com, you go to all these sites, you'll be able to add your min and max using SellerAmp, and also the specific repricing rule that you want while you are sourcing. And then, Mike, could you share a little bit, like how does that help sellers? Like when you're sourcing, whether that's doing OA or doing RA, like what's the benefit of being able to set your min and max right there and then, and also picking your repricing rule for sellers?
Yeah. Number one, it's saving you time. I think everybody would understand that. You're doing it in that moment. You don't have to make like a separate, task to do it, maybe at night or the next day. Because I know a lot of people, they'll send out inventory, and then when the inventory is there, they're like, oh, I never even put in my COGS. I never put in my mins maxes. And then they kind of got to do it and scramble. Some people will just do it, the day or day after, which isn't an awful thing to do. But if you're looking at that item and you're buying that item, why wouldn't you want to do it in that moment and not have to worry about it after that? And number two, some people actually delegate this task to a VA. So if you could just do it in that moment, it's 10 times easier.
Exactly. And then if you're a BQool customer and you're using SellerAmp as well, you can get a lot more data now, and vice versa too. Like if you're a SellerAmp customer and you use BQool, now you'll be able to get the number of units sold right inside SellerAmp, because we're able to pull all the data from the Amazon API coming in from BQool. And in the BQool side, you could see a lot more graphs. You could see like Keepa data, buy box analytics, also the stock level of different products as well. And then this is really going to change the way that you do your workflow. So I want to just share a little bit of like before the integration and after the integration, like what can people expect? And then from before, like you probably have a more busy workflow and there's a lot of back and forth. And then, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but as a seller, I might be sourcing, and then I might take all the products that I'm going to buy, and then I'm going to export them probably to a Google sheet or maybe to Excel or something like that. And then once I have that, I would go back, and then when I go into another repricing software, then I'm going to then set my mins and max on a separate software, and it's just not as efficient. Like I have to do the same thing, kind of like redundant. Yeah, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It kind of goes back on what we were just talking about, that when you have this integration and as you're sourcing and buying these products, you could do it in that moment, and it makes your workflow and saves you, it just makes you more efficient and saves you a lot of time. So I think that compared to other tools, that's a huge bonus, having that perk.
So enough, talking about the benefits. We're going to show you how you could use it for online arbitrage and also for retail arbitrage as well. So let's get right to business. Mike, when you used the integration, like, was it difficult for you? Like, was it hard to understand how to use it?
For me, not so much. I wouldn't say I'm crazy tech savvy, but I feel like I usually just try things until I figure it out. I always look it up. I look at the guides. Or I'll ask around. But for me, honestly, the integration, the setup wasn't that bad.
Fantastic. So once you sign up to BQool, and this is where the integration happens, you have to sign up to BQool first. And then, so make sure again to use Mike's link. I have to strongly emphasize that because it is a very good deal for you and there's no risk. We don't even take your credit card. Yeah, so that's how much we believe in our software. And so right inside the active listing tab, you're going to see active listing. the listing, and there's another one called SellerAmp listing once you turn the integration on. So I'm going to active listings. This has downloaded all of my listings that I have. And then I go to settings and I click on general. And inside the general settings, I'm just going down to right here, SellerAmp SAS integration. And I just click on. And this is going to bring me over to SellerAmp's page when I'm turning it on. And I got my token blurred. And then I just have to press connect. And then it says connection updated. I've already enabled the integration, and that's it. There's no other steps I have to do. Yeah, so literally it takes you like 1 minute, less than 1 minute.
Less.
Okay, so now that we have turned it on, I'm going back into my BQool active listing tab, and I'm going to just click on the listing just to update the panel, and you're going to now see that I have the SellerAmp listings. So what does it mean when you have the SellerAmp listing there and it's not in the active listing? It just means that you sourced the product using SellerAmp. You haven't sent it into Amazon Seller Central if you're doing FBA. If you're doing FBM and it's a replenishable item that you already purchased before, then when you scan the product, or if you do an online arbitrage, you add the product through SellerAmp, then it would go into your active listing based on your settings here. So now let's show an actual example of how all this works. And then, Mike, maybe you can guide me. Like if I'm sourcing for a product, let's pretend I found a product using storefront stocking or other methods, and I found this Lego Star Wars product, and I'm using the SellerAmp app here. As you guys can see, now I have a BQool tab here. Now, in order to move the BQool tab there, I'm going to go into settings, and then I'm going to just drag the BQool setting all the way to the top, because I'm going to be using that very, very frequently. So that's the way to put the BQool integration to the top so you could actually see it. And you could also move other things in SellerAmp as well, depending on what you would like to do. And then we go back. I'm just going to go look at this ASIN again. So I'm going to reopen up SellerAmp here. Mike, how much do you think I could source this product from your experience as a seven-figure seller?
Yeah, so Legos are an interesting topic in the Amazon space. A lot of them are more investment pieces. So a lot of people will tend to look at the listings and they're like, oh, I'm never going to be able to get it for, half of this price. When in reality, Lego produces most sets for like 2 to 3 years. And more exclusively with like the Star Wars sets or like the Marvel sets, it's usually like 2 years, unless it's a super, super popular set and the Lego group feels like they can, extend it a year and just get more sales. Usually it's 2 years. So what people do is they kind of time it as they're about to like approach that production end, basically when they cease production and start to run out of stock. A lot of people tend to buy it on sale or they buy it on Prime Day. For example, I bought a bunch of sets today on Prime Day for about, not this specific set, but I bought a set that generally retails for $50. I bought it for $35. But when they retire the set and the production life ends and the stock dries up, it's just like anything else with supply and demand. Like once the supply is gone, the prices will go up. It's just like sports cards. It's just like shoes. It's like everything pretty much that's resellable. And for this specific set, it retails around 60 to $70. You probably are finding it at the biggest sale so far at $56, it looks like. But when this production life, this actually retires at the end of this year, I believe, or maybe 2025.
I'm going to show an example right now. So let's say we got this for $45, like as you said, and let's say the sales price is $75. Right, so that's about a 25% ROI with $11 profit. That's like a quick flip just for holding it for a little bit. What we're going to do, we're going to export the new listing right into SellerAmp. So when I click on that button, Now we have the product costs. And then for the additional costs here, let's say we use a prep center, we pay them maybe $1, $1.15, $1.20, and then plus my shipping into Amazon, we'll do like 30 or 40 cents. So we could do like $1.50, maybe $2, but $1.50 here. And then for my min price, Mike, if I was able to get it for 45, it retails for 75, and then I'm looking at the Keepa chart here, how would you price it from your experience, just by looking at this quick Keepa chart? This might.
Yeah.
This is hard to. The buy box is at $63.99 right now.
Yeah. So if this is something you want to do a quick flip, in December, it's probably going to go out of stock on Amazon, because Amazon is a 1P vendor for Lego. And what happens is people will actually do Amazon to Amazon flips. They'll also buy it from other places like Lego, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart. And they'll buy it at, this $56 price. For example, maybe the Boba Fett helmet, I bought that for 45, held on to it. It's probably selling for like 90 now. What I would probably set the minimum price to for an investment piece like this is obviously what you want to price it at. So something like, it's clearly selling for 56 right now, so you wouldn't want to sell it at that. Let's say you want to set it at 75. You could set it at 75, and then basically as Amazon goes out of stock, the only people that are left to sell the product are third-party sellers. So, which most of them are probably pricing it at a substantially higher price, because we're all doing the same thing. You're buying the set, you're holding on to it, and then you're selling it when Amazon runs out. And it's kind of a waiting game. You wait for the retailers to run out of stock. As it dries up, then the prices go up. So if this was more of an arbitrageable listing that you could sell immediately, like a Nike good, I would just look at the 30 or 90-day buy box average on SellerAmp and then try to get a good guesstimate of where you want to set your minimum. Now for this, I would obviously set it at whatever you're comfortable at selling it with. So if you want to price it at 75 and make that $11 profit per unit, that's fine. You might be able to sell it this winter. But you could also price it at $99 if you want. And then whenever Amazon runs out of stock and the third-party sellers, whenever it reaches that threshold of $99, then it'll start to sell.
And then for a repricing rule, like what would you recommend, the repricing rule to use for something like this? Like just to refresh everybody who's watching this, we have AI 1.0, which aggressively goes for the buy box, which will go underneath the buy box. We have AI 2.0, which will go above the buy box. And the lowest price that it would reprice to is the buy box price. And then we could also use price looping, which will increase your price.
You're going to have to judge it based on how the demand is that season. But personally, I would pick a repricing rule that is more aggressive to price upwards, because if there's only sellers with 5 in stock and they run out and you're at $75, why wouldn't you want to be at 77 or 78? So what I would do is test this repricing rule and see if it can actually raise the price during it, because there's no point of repricing down when it's Q4, because the sales demand is obviously there. Now, if you're not getting any sales at all, maybe there's too many third-party sellers at the time. Maybe you could do something that's a little bit more moderate that can reprice up and down. So it's more of a matter of the situation, not the actual rule, in my opinion. So if you're selling a lot, definitely find a rule that's going to reprice more aggressively upwards than downwards.
In this specific case, we would use AI grow profit or AI boost profit, which will go above the buy box price. And then maybe after Q3, Q4, if you need to liquidate, if you need to sell out some of these products to get your money back, if you still have a lot of inventory, then you would use a more aggressive rule that's more focused on sales. Yeah, so that's the beauty of using BQool. We have both options. We believe that you should have more than one AI rule. Just like when you're driving, you're going to have different modes that you're driving. And also, let's say you're using Microsoft Copilot. You are the pilot, and you are the one driving the car. But you could decide what kind of parameters and prompts that you want to put into the repricer. So that's what we believe, and that's why we have more than one AI rule. So back to the integration. After you have filled out these, you just click on export, and now it's just going to export right into BQool. And then, so when you get home, or maybe later, when you want to go into your repricer, it's already going to be in there for you. So once the product ships to you or ship to your prep center, and then it ships into Amazon, then it will be ready to start repricing. And like, what's the benefit of being able to set your min and max price, and also the rule right now, rather than waiting until you actually get the product and then doing it later?
I think it saves a lot of dead time, because you're actually looking at the Keepa graphs, you're actually looking at the buy box stats currently, right now, while you're sourcing that product. Now, if you go back later, or maybe even a day or two after, to plug in those products, you're going to be like, oh crap, I forgot what the buy box was, or I forgot what the the sales graph looked like, and then you're going to waste more time going back to the Keepa that you already looked at that night. So if you do it in that moment, you're saving a lot more time than doing it maybe hours later, a day later, or even just delegating it to someone else.
That's fantastic. Now let's take a look at another example of doing the retail arbitrage. And we're going to show you a familiar person that you've seen in many of the videos. And Mike, before we get into the retail arbitrage, I do want to ask you, what is your experience doing the retail arbitrage?
I love retail arbitrage, mainly because I did Nike and Lego. And maybe it was just because I was good at finding products that were on sale. I was in New Jersey. Now I'm in Philadelphia, but I had a lot of Nike outlets in my general area in New Jersey. I probably had like 3 or 4 of them. So going there was easy. It was 20 minutes from like most of them, just all. So I would just do a continuous loop every now and then. And occasionally I would hear, there's sales going on. So I'd be like, okay, I'm going to get to all 4 of them today. And maybe it's because my locations just have better stock than other locations. But when you go to these outlets, you're finding products that are maybe discontinued, maybe just they can't sell it fast enough on their retail websites, or whatever the reason is. You're finding products, like at one point I was finding Nike slides for $5. And some of those listings sell for like $30 in the summer. So
Incredible.
The margins are there. You can FBM it to have quicker cash flow. You could still FBA it. I loved FBAing because I hated FBMing, but FBMing has its purpose. You get quicker cash in your pocket, and you can replenish and deploy that on more products. But retail is good. I mean, retail arbitrage was great, especially with Nike, Adidas. There's plenty of other brands that you could do it with, but it definitely is fun.
Let's show everybody an example here with a familiar person that we've seen in the past. So based on what Mike shared, I did retail arbitrage while I was in the States.
Nice.
I spent about 10 hours doing it because it's not that easy if you're starting out. Yeah. So this is at
Ross.
Yeah, TJ Maxx or Ross. And then I was looking for all these products here. And here I found some Under Armour socks. So I used the SellerAmp app, and it was a multi-pack. I found the same product, and I know that this sells very quickly, very easily. There are some competitors on there, but I checked the Keepa graph. I know what the price is. And then what I did is I used the SellerAmp app, and I'm able to put my min in my max prices doing that. And then this way I'm able to export it right into BQool. And for this specific example, I decided to use FBM because for FBM, I've already, let's say for a replenishable item I've already sold before, I could list it in the store, and I could even sell it even while I was still in the store. And that's just incredible. It doesn't really happen all the time, but it could happen. It could happen. And this was another product I found, like some Ralph Lauren sheets. It was only $39.99. It was retailing on Amazon for $150. And the last item that I found after hours and hours of searching was a beauty product as well. So you could totally use SellerAmp and BQool while you are doing this retail arbitrage. And we have a lot of different retail arbitrage sellers that have a lot of success. So Mike, I want to ask you, like, what is the benefit of doing of using SellerAmp and BQool when you are doing retail arbitrage?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like I'm gonna say this 10 times, but it's the same thing. You get to put in the mins and maxes. You get to be able to not only reprice instantaneously, but you can also sell products in that moment. And even if you are selling products in that moment, you could set those repricing rules to even boost your profit even more. And I think not a lot of people, when they're doing, retail arbitrage, people that don't have SellerAmp or BQool, they're using the Amazon app, they're using the Keepa app, which are great, but they're not good for retail arbitrage at all. You could see ranks, but you can't see buy box stats. You can't see the price points, the 30, 60, 90-day average, or 30, 90, 180-day average. So it's just more user-friendly, and you can, really expedite those sales and really kind of list those things almost instantaneously, which is just more bang for the buck. You sell through quicker. You could deploy it on more inventory quicker, and you could do it within minutes almost. And like you said, you could sell products before you even leave the store, which is amazing.
If you haven't signed up to BQool or SellerAmp, make sure to use Mike's link. If you haven't heard anything from today, to really take advantage, whether you're doing online arbitrage, whether you're doing retail arbitrage, even if you're a larger seller with VAs. Because the VAs, they could also, when they're sourcing for you into your buy sheet, they could also, now you can tell them the logic you want for repricing about your min, your max, and they can do that for you, and you can check it. And then I just want to quickly look at our software here, just to show you that the listing that the Dark Vader listing that we looked at earlier. So look, we already have the Lego set that we sourced together, and it's already inside BQool with the $45 cost. With additional cost for shipping and also for a prep fee, and then also the minimum and the max price, as long with the AI grow profit. Yeah, so you could check the ASIN here. It's the same Amazing. One as what we have here, the same ASIN. You can see the same ASIN here that we did when we exported completed. And that was just a few minutes ago. So this is very quick, very fast that you could do this. And if you need additional support, so if you need more support, definitely contact support@bqool.com. Or if you want more information about SellerAmp, you can contact SellerAmp at support@selleramp.com. Yeah, thanks everyone for watching or sharing today. And if you have any questions, be free to let us know, and we'll be happy to answer them. Thanks for inviting us to your community, Mike. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for demoing this. This was great. Super informative. I really appreciate it, Sam.